Victims of the 2010 cholera epidemic in Haiti are filing a multi-billion-dollar compensation claim against the United Nations. In a New York court, they allege the UN was responsible for bringing the disease to the Caribbean nation. Over 8,000 people died, hundreds of thousands became ill in what was the biggest outbreak of the disease in recent history. Stephen Fee is live at the UN in New York with much more now. Stephen?
Well, Mike, those attorneys filed the suit on Wednesday morning here in New York City on behalf of 5 named plaintiffs, all of whom had family members who succumbed to that cholera epidemic. But they're asking the judge to consider this as a class action representing all of the victims of the cholera outbreak. Now, this lawsuit comes amid a growing number of independent studies suggesting a link between the cholera outbreak and poor sanitation conditions at a United Nations base once located on one of Haiti's most critical waterways. The Artibonite River is Haiti's most vital waterway, a place where children bathe, women wash clothes, and the likely source of a deadly cholera outbreak that in 3 years has stricken over 650,000 Haitians.
I think in terms of scientific evidence, there is no question that UN peacekeeping troops negligently but unintentionally brought cholera into the country.
This August, law student Celso Perez and his colleagues at Yale University published the latest in a string of reports that have all reached the same conclusion. In 2011, the UN's own panel confirmed poor sanitation conditions at this UN base on a tributary of the Artibonite River. Earlier this year, those same UN scientists said Nepalese peacekeepers were, quote, the most likely source of the outbreak. Clinical legal professor Munir Ahmed oversaw the Yale study.
The UN has tried to pretend this hasn't happened. They have obfuscated, they've diverted attention. They've never answered squarely the question, does the UN take responsibility for this or not?
Eyewitnesses we spoke to verified reports of deplorable sanitation conditions at the Haitian UN base. And our own investigation revealed the UN continues to employ the same sanitation contractor, which has netted some $1.7 million in UN contracts since 2010. Now, the UN declined our request for an interview on the matter, and with regards to the current lawsuit, said it's not UN policy to comment on pending claims. As the Yale study points out, the UN's own agreement with Haiti has a mechanism for adjudicating claims. But the UN's legal counsel has called such claims, quote, not receivable, citing the UN's legal immunity.
The UN has really not changed its position so far. And again, I think mainly out of concern of setting a precedent and having to come up with financial compensation that the organization could not afford, simply.
But the authors of the Yale report say the UN has both a legal and moral obligation to pay.
There's an opportunity for the UN to do that in a way that will never make those individuals, those families in Haiti who are injured whole, but dignifies the injury that was done and holds the potential of strengthening peacekeeping operations going forward.
And of course, Mike, the United Nations doesn't want to talk about the lawsuit. Instead, they're talking about their own efforts to help eradicate cholera in Haiti, spending $140 million, calling on the international community to donate billions more to upgrade infrastructure in the impoverished nation. But overall, even the most optimistic estimates say Haiti won't be clear of cholera for at least a decade. Mike?
Stephen Fee live for us in New York. Thanks so much.